I'm Tim Trott, and this is Introduction to Drones. I'm a certified FDLE instructor. I hold one of the first 400 exemptions under the FAA's Section 333 for commercial drone operators, and I'm the author of the Droner's Guide ebook on Amazon.com. I've created a series of courses that can provide a background for working with and around UAVs for law enforcement, search and rescue, emergency medical services, and other public safety functions. Drone Professor is a marketing identity and trade name and does not represent any degree. With the rapid spread of unmanned aircraft, particularly multi-rotor UAS, it has become clear that there is a need for operators to have an understanding of applicable regulations, fundamental flight maneuvers, mission planning, operations in controlled airspace, communication practices, flight resources, weather factors, risk management, situational awareness, and safe operating procedures. It is the goal of my courses to provide a foundation for meeting the challenges and opportunities of unmanned aerial vehicles. But this is just an introduction. The Ventura County, California Sheriff's Office requested a Certificate of Authorization, COA, from the FAA, Federal Aviation Administration, to allow flying training flights. They also created a simulation video to demonstrate some of the advantages of using a drone.
911, do you have an emergency?
Hello?
911, do you have an emergency?
I was hiking with my daughter, and she fell down in the canyon. I can't get her out. I don't know exactly where we are.
I have a deputy en route to your location. Just stay there and remain on the line with me.
I had to hike up here to get cell reception. I got completely turned around, and I have no idea how to get back to her, man. We gotta find her.
So just calm down. We have help on the way. Station 1, 3 Charles 12. Request search and rescue off the Sycamore Canyon Trail for a lost 9-year-old girl. Unknown exact last location. Also advised on helicopter.
10-4, stand by.
Sorry, Captain, we can't fly. The copter's socked in the fog.
Copy that. I'll dispatch the unmanned aerial vehicle with search and rescue.
Charles 1, Station 1, be advised the helicopter is grounded due to fog, but we have a search and rescue team on the way along with the UAV.
Station 1, 3 Charles 12, 10-4. Sir, help's on the way. Let's go ahead and take a look around and see if you see anything that looks familiar.
It would take our team all day to search this ravine. We should be able to cover quite a bit of ground with this. UAV approaching Rattlesnake Ridge. UAV approaching Rattlesnake Ridge. UAV approaching Rattlesnake Ridge. Hey, there she is. We got her. She looks like she's okay. She's waving back at the camera. She's about 1.5 miles down Rattlesnake Ridge. We'll keep the UAV and camera on her and send them the exact coordinates here in a minute. We have a visual of her on the UAV camera. She's waving back at the camera.
Sir, your little girl's okay. Search and rescue found her. Why don't you go ahead and come with me?
However, to a certain Grant Marcus of the Occupy Ventura movement, the idea of having drones roaming Ventura County's airspace could mean the end of personal privacy as we know it. Marcus represents an example of the concern among some elements of the public, which must be carefully handled when it is encountered.
Deer Trail, Colorado, population 598. A small town with big American pride, claiming to be home of the world's first rodeo.
This is David and Goliath.
Deer Trail resident Philip Steele is ready to fight for Old West values that he believes are threatened by drones.
So if you see one overhead, what are you proposing to do?
I am proposing to shoot it down.
Steele says it was the National Defense Authorization Act that got him fired up. He read about the government's plan to add 6 bases for drone testing and invest $23 billion into new unmanned aerial vehicles. The FAA says thousands of drones could be flying over our heads by 2020.
The idea of eyes in the sky, Steele says, is just not the American way. His message to the government, not in my backyard.
So Steele drafted a drone hunting ordinance that goes up for a town vote tomorrow. A yes vote would give licensed residents in this 1 square mile town the go-ahead to shoot down a drone that comes within 1,000 feet of their homes.
But you don't want people to take this seriously.
Well, of course I want them to take it seriously.
Steele insists he's thought of everything. The ordinance specifies the kinds of weapons and ammunition you can use, and even puts a bounty on recovered drone parts. $25 for the fuselage or wing, $100 for a whole drone that has U.S. government markings.
That's a federal offense to destroy government property on top of that, and it's a ridiculous thing and embarrassing the town.
Despite opposition, Steele's idea has found support.
I would shoot a drone down if it's peering in my window, scanning me, and it's within elevation where I can nail it.
Former Deer Trail Mayor Robert Copley is one of some 400 people who've already purchased Steele's novelty drone hunting licenses just to make a statement.
People are buying them because they believe in the cause and they want to display these. Also, they're very beautiful.
They're printed on vellum, stamped with the logo that says, "Kill them all, death from below."
It says license may not be recognized by tyrannical municipal, state, or federal governments.
The FAA is keeping an eye on Deer Trail's special election and issued a statement that warns shooting an unmanned aircraft could result in criminal or civil liability, just as would firing at a manned airplane. All of this setting up a possible legal duel between the local and federal governments.
There are many things that are illegal. The U.S. federal government declared war on us. This is our response.
Steele insists he won't be deterred from shooting at a drone, but hopes the ordinance would deter drones from passing through Deer Trail. For Out Front, Ana Cabrera, Deer Trail, Colorado.
So what is a drone? It has many names. Remote Piloted Aircraft System, RPAS, Remote Piloted Vehicle. Unmanned Aerial System, UAS, or Unmanned Aerial Vehicle, UAV. Small Unmanned Aerial System, SUAS, and there's a new term, microdrone. Radio-Controlled Aircraft, RCA or R/C. Remotely Controlled Aerial Platform, RCAPA. Or how about this? Unmanned Flying Object. Yeah, that probably won't catch on. Do the letters drone, D-R-O-N-E, mean anything? Well, actually they do. Dynamic Remotely Operated Navigational Equipment, D-R-O-N-E. In November 2014, then FAA Chief Michael Huerta predicted there would be 7,500 drones by 2018. Well, actually there were 10,000 sold just that month. The FAA underestimated the impact of UAVs and has been playing a catch-up game from the beginning. So, how long have unmanned aircraft been around?
What exactly is a drone? Some will tell you a drone is a surveillance tool meant to watch over a nation. Others might say it's an innovative gizmo for delivering products. Even more probably, will tell you a drone is a lethal ghost hiding in the sky. The United States military currently has hundreds of unarmed and armed drones flying over more than a dozen countries. By 2018, the Federal Aviation Administration predicts some 7,500 small commercial drones will be present in the United States alone. In the past decade, drones have become synonymous with airstrikes aimed at eliminating terrorist groups overseas, guided largely by the Central Intelligence Agency's targeted killing program. The Bureau of Investigative Journalism reports that between 2004 and 2014, the CIA organized close to 400 drone strikes in Pakistan, killing more than 3,000 people. And those are just the strikes we know about. It's no wonder these machines have captured the curiosity and fear of the world over. But where did these phantoms of the sky come from? To find out, we'll need to look back almost 100 years. Drones, or unmanned aerial vehicles, work through a system of sensors. Think of it as a basic remote-controlled vehicle, only with a much longer range. The exact origin of the drone is tricky to pin down. World War I saw the first real introduction of aircraft into military service, though things like balloons and kites had been used for decades before. Toward the end of World War I, the US Army was working on what it called aerial torpedoes, small biplanes like the Kettering Bug that would essentially work as kamikaze drones. But the war ended before they could be used. In 1915, in the early months of the Battle of Neuve-Chapelle in France, British armed forces used aerial imagery to capture more than 1,500 skyview maps of the German trench fortifications in the region. This ushered in a brand new era of using aerial imagery for complex coordinated operations like, for the first time ever, artillery on the ground were able to carry out barrages with advanced knowledge of the enemy infantry thanks to aerial mapping. This system continued to develop throughout the war. In 1939, in the very early stages of World War II, the United States produced the first remote-controlled aircraft called the radioplane OQ-2. Norma Jean Doherty, before she became better known as Marilyn Monroe, worked at a California plant assembling OQ-2s during the war. Unmanned surveillance operations continued playing more prominent roles throughout the Cold War and global conflicts in general. In 1973, after the Yom Kippur War, Israel developed the Mastiff UAV, and soon after, the IAI Scout, again both unpiloted surveillance machines. In 1986, a joint US-Israeli project produced the RQ-2 Pioneer, a medium-sized reconnaissance drone. Around the same time, Abraham Karam, an Israeli expert engineer who'd spent years working for the IAI, developed a similar prototype called the Nat 750 in his garage outside Los Angeles. American defense contractor General Atomics bought Karam's design in 1990. Fast forward a few years to the early stages of the Bosnian War, and the CIA purchased 2 Nat 750s for $5 million to deploy on surveillance operations over Bosnia. On January 7, 1994, the Pentagon signed a contract with General Atomics that tasked the company with redesigning the Nat 750, a deal to make it bigger, sturdier, quieter, more dynamic. 6 months later, the first generation of the Predator drone was born. The Predator was first flown over Afghanistan in the fall of 2000, when an Air Force team flew one for the CIA in a hunt for Osama bin Laden. At the time, it was only armed with surveillance cameras. On December 21, 2000, the US Air Force received Pentagon approval to arm the Predator with Hellfire missiles, less than a year before the 9/11 terrorist attacks on New York City. In the immediate aftermath of 9/11, the CIA launched the Targeted Killing Campaign, essentially an approval list from the Pentagon to kill whomever they deemed perpetrators of the 9/11 attacks. This is legal because of what's called an authorization for use of military force, a law Congress passed in the wake of 9/11. Enter the strikes. As the remnants of the terror group Al-Qaeda's leadership fled out of Afghanistan and into Pakistan and Yemen, both sovereign territories, the newly armed drones soon followed. Quietly. And here's where things really started to get messy. Article 2.4 of the Charter of the United Nations protects the sovereignty of member states, meaning they should be free from military incursions during times of peace. But the Obama administration argued the manhunts were permissible because the intended targets, all affiliated with Al-Qaeda in one form or another, posed an imminent threat of attacks on US soil or US interests abroad. Both the CIA and Pentagon have been relatively quiet about who and where they strike. The Bureau of Investigative Journalism reports that the CIA initiated close to 400 drone strikes in Pakistan since 2004, while the Pentagon executed between 66 and 184 in Yemen, plus 20 more in Somalia. But really, given the limited information on strikes, it's difficult to pin down an exact number of casualties. Why use drones to kill? Why now? Think about it as if you're cracking a code. In traditional warfare, enemies were easily identified by their uniforms or activities. Post-9/11 terrorist groups like Al-Qaeda and related insurgencies instead hide in plain sight, living modestly amongst civilians and using homes as their command centers. The sneakiness of drones makes it possible for someone near Las Vegas to remotely watch over a suspected area in, say, Pakistan for months at a time, sifting through the haystack to find the hiding needle from an entire ocean away. But that just leads to things getting even messier. As with traditional strikes, civilians can also get caught up in the crossfire from drones. The Bureau reports 957 civilians have been killed by drone strikes in Pakistan since 2004. 200 of them children. But again, exact numbers are tough to nail down. On September 30th, 2011, the CIA killed Anwar al-Awlaki, a US citizen living in Yemen who'd been working for Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, a radical militant group. Some law scholars and journalists criticized the Obama administration for targeting an American citizen, but the US Department of Justice insisted al-Awlaki had for years posed imminent threats to the United States. The ethics and laws of it all are still largely a very gray area. In 2014, Amazon proposed using drones, much smaller and simpler than those in the military, to deliver packages to customers. Real estate agencies have begun using drones for promotional videos, and a burst of small DIY organizations have started creating their own, smaller-scale machines for recreational flights. Others have used drones for anti-poaching rescue missions in Africa. Medicine delivery via drones is still in its testing phase, and even Facebook is building huge solar-powered drones to fly at 50,000 feet and beam internet into remote areas of the world. The Federal Aviation Administration reports more than 934 government agencies in the United States, from the FBI to Customs and Border Control to small police departments in Minnesota, have been approved for limited rights to operate unmanned aircraft in domestic spaces. Chris Anderson, a former editor at Wired who left the magazine to run 3D Robotics, a drone kit company, put it best. We are entering the drone age. There's been blowback. As of May 2014, 35 states in the US have introduced legislation to limit the use of drones by government agencies. To date, 12 have adopted this legislation. Ironically, though, recent polls show that more than half of Americans approve the use of drone strikes. Overseas, understandably, the overall approval is much lower. If the drone age is indeed here, what can we expect in the next year, 2 years, 5? If recent trends are any indication, we might as well get used to seeing them. And having them see us.
Okay, that's what they are, so what are they good for? Well, everybody's going to get rich using drones for real estate photography, right? At the start, movies were one of the biggest users of drones. TV programs like Home and Garden TV use drones often. Car commercials are another common use. Sports teams have obtained permission to use drones in evaluating their training. I read recently where one land surveyor said he had flown 15,000 drone flights in the course of his work. Aerial views can be useful in designing and marketing things like golf courses. Some years, as many as 10 to 20 people are killed falling from cell phone and radio towers while performing the required FCC inspections, and drones can play a part in reducing those deaths. Road departments are beginning to find uses for drones for bridge inspection. Several insurance companies have been granted commercial exemptions for their work. So what about public safety? What can drones do for us there? There's search and rescue, accident investigation, showing a perspective that can't be shown from the ground. Crime scene investigation, another application. Illinois police have used drones at crime scenes, as have Seattle, Los Angeles, even Miami. Drones have been successfully used to reduce danger to officers and the public in hostage situations. And there are applications in providing an overhead perspective in training scenario exercises. What about EMS applications?
112 operator, what is your emergency?
It's my dad. I think he had a heart attack. Please help. He's not breathing anymore.
Please stay calm. What's your name?
Joanna.
Good. Joanna, we've got your location. The ambulance drone is on its way. Remove his top shirt to uncover his torso.
Okay.
Great. Can you go to the nearest exit? The ambulance drone is almost there.
Okay. I'm outside.
I'll be talking through the drone now, so you can put down the phone. Now please pick up the drone and bring it to your father. You're doing great. Okay, pull the green lid. Now place the pads on your father's chest. Good, I can see that the pads are properly applied. Joanna, please stay clear of your father. We'll take it from here.
Hi, I'm Alec Momon. I'm a graduate student at the TU Delft working on a project for Living Tomorrow and UZ Gent. Our vision is to improve current emergency infrastructure with a network of drones capable of saving lives. At over 100 km per hour, these drones create an ultra-fast response system capable of increasing this survival chance from 8% to 80%. This is because the ambulance drone is not affected by current road infrastructure, but is capable of flying in a straight line, bringing down the average response time of an ambulance from 10 minutes to 1. We developed a new type of drone that is capable of folding into a very compact position. The drone essentially becomes a flying toolbox for your emergency supplies. Using advanced production techniques such as 3D printed microstructures and carbon fiber frame construction, we were able to achieve a very lightweight design. Our iterative process using design sketching, laser cutting and CNC milling allowed us to rapidly visualize our ideas. The result is an integrated solution that is clear in its orientation and friendly in appearance. Let's use drones for a good purpose. Let us use drones to save lives.
Okay, so an ambulance drone, a flying defibrillator can save people having a heart attack, but what about flying underground? Yes. And then there's Amazon.com and their vision of drone deliveries.
This is a story from the not too distant future. It's the day of your daughter Millie's big football match, and to be clear, that is the sort of football you play with your feet. Anyway, she is missing a vital piece of equipment, specifically a size 3 Puma Evo Power firm ground soccer shoe, the left one. And some of it, sadly, is in the family's 3-year-old bulldog, Stuart. So now what? Well, you could yell angrily at the poor thing, but what's the point? Because all it will hear is blah, 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 Stuart, blah, blah, Stuart, blah. Much better to behave like a rational human being. Find your tablet and place an order with Amazon for a pair of Puma Evo Power firm ground soccer shoes and have them delivered in 30 minutes or less. And in a location not too far away, a miracle of modern technology is dispatched. It's an Amazon drone, and after rising vertically like a helicopter to nearly 400 feet, this amazing hybrid design assumes a horizontal orientation and becomes a streamlined and fast airplane. In time, there'll be a whole family of Amazon drones, different designs for different environments. This one can fly for 15 miles. And it knows what's happening around it. It uses sense and avoid technology to, well, sense and then avoid obstacles on the ground and in the air. Back at the house, you're getting a message on your tablet to say that your prime air delivery is arriving. And it goes back to vertical mode and scans the landing area for potential hazards. This amazing innovation then lowers itself slowly to the ground, drops off the package, and flies straight back up to altitude. And moments later, you're walking through the door with a brand new pair of Puma Evo Power firm ground soccer shoes, size 3 for Millie, and a Nylabone chicken-flavoured Durachew for naughty, naughty Stuart. And balance is restored to the universe.
But of course, there are some definite problems associated with UAVs. Among them, the low resistance to weather like high winds. There's a danger to other low-altitude aircraft like helicopters, crop dusters, banner planes. Because of their size, they're hard to see and avoid. And they can cause injuries. The scene above was an incident April 2014 in Australia involving a triathlete runner. A drone hit the runner in the head. And they can also be dangerous to entertainers. Drones can also present an added hazard to firefighting.
Drones are fun to fly, but the fun ends when you fly one near a wildfire. There is a lot of low-level air traffic over a wildfire, and pilots are focused on their mission. Unexpected aircraft, even small drones near a fire, puts lives at risk. No drone flight or picture or video is worth a life. Not only is it a bad and dangerous idea, only authorized aircraft are permitted to fly near wildfires. Drones and wildfires don't mix. Be smart, be safe, stay away.
Clearly, there are many dimensions to these little aircraft.
A thermal camera so sensitive, it detects the footprints of someone who just walked across a carpet. New digital systems that may store millions of hours of real-time video.
You can start to build up a wealth of information.
But as Americans worry about the federal government's secret surveillance program, there's a wave of local capability just on the horizon, from cameras to drones.
There's a lot of law enforcement agencies and firefighting agencies that are looking to use the technology.
Well over 1,000 local agencies have applied for drone permits across the country, from police departments in Miami-Dade and Houston, Texas, to the Ohio Department of Transportation.
We're looking at a future where, police departments could deploy dozens or even hundreds of these flying robotic video cameras over an entire neighborhood or city.
Gigapixel cameras can already do constant surveillance on 25 square mile areas. Those could soon be married to drones so inexpensive, even small towns could afford them.
How's this any different from a police car following behind me or an officer standing outside my house?
There's a police officer who can see you, you can see them, right? What you don't know is if there's a camera up in the clouds following you everywhere you go.
Even those who support the technology say there have to be ways for the public to hold their local government accountable.
Which police officer was operating the system? Where was the camera pointed when the drone was flying? What was it looking at? Where was it located?
Money and budgets used to be a natural limit to local surveillance. Towns could only afford so many cops and helicopters. But that may not matter as much with this new technology. Right now, the FAA is writing the rules on which domestic drones can fly and where. But some towns are already getting a jump. Charlottesville, Virginia passed the first anti-drone law earlier this year, and similar legislation is under review in 13 other states.
Our objective throughout this series of courses is to prepare the student for meeting real-world challenges of operating small unmanned aerial vehicles. Our objectives throughout this series of courses is to prepare the student for meeting the real-world challenges of operating small unmanned aircraft for public use or private use. That includes safety and maintenance, flight planning, understanding and meeting the requirements of FAA regulations, responding to drone complaints, preparing and filing for a Section 334 COA or a 333 exemption, basic aeronautical skills, communications, understanding airspace and clearance, interacting with air traffic control and other aircraft, and more. Please consider these course offerings. Thank you for viewing this Introduction to Drones, and I invite you to visit the droneprofessor.com website for more information, and to contact me to arrange for any of our available training courses. Thank you for your participation.